Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. We talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm your host, Jeffrey, and subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. We just passed 200 subs. Thank you guys so much from the bottom of my heart, and thank you, Connor Johnson, for being the 200 subscriber, and I hope I can continue to make great content you guys will enjoy in the future. Now, on Saturday, Championship Saturday is here, and you got the MAC Championship game between the Toledo Rockets and the Ohio Bobcats. Who do I think is going to win this game? Let's break it down. Now, Toledo is 7-5 and 5-3 in the MAC this season, and Jason Candle at head coach has done a pretty good job at Toledo. They've had some up and down seasons, but this year is one of their better years, and they're having a pretty decent season. And in week 1, they beat LIU 37-0. That was a good win. Then they beat UMass 55-10, but then they lost at Ohio State 77-21. No contest there. Toledo had no chance against Ohio State. Then they lost at San Diego State 17-14. That was a tough loss because they almost pulled out a win at San Diego State. Then they beat Central Michigan 38-17. Then they won at Northern Illinois 52-32, and then they beat Kent State 52-31. Then they lost at Buffalo 34-27. That was a tough loss there because Buffalo is not playing as well this season. Then they beat Eastern Michigan on the road 27-24. Then Toledo beat Ball State 28-21. Then they lost to Bowling Green 42-35, and then they lost at Western Michigan 20-14. So they've had up and down results all season. They've had some bad results against some bad teams, and they've had some better results against some good teams. So Toledo's had a pretty decent season, but they've been a bit inconsistent. And in that Western Michigan game, quarterback Tucker Gleason at 200 yards, a touchdown, and interception. He was not the starting quarterback at the beginning of the season, but he's starting now, and he's playing pretty well. He's a solid quarterback. He does make some mistakes, and he's not a great runner, but he is able to throw the football pretty well, so he's not bad. Running back Penny Boone at 70 yards, and wide receiver Devin Maddox at 78 yards for Toledo. And Toledo's offense is decent. They have decent players, but they are going to have to be more consistent on offense if they're going to be able to beat Ohio. And then on the defensive side of the ball, linebacker Jamal Hines at 5 tackles, linebacker Dallas Gann at 5 tackles, and cornerback Quinion Mitchell at 4 tackles and interception for Toledo against Western Michigan. Now, Toledo's defense is really solid. They've had a couple of games where they weren't too good on defense, but for the most part of the season, they've been really good on defense, and I think Toledo's defense is a little bit better than their offense. Now, on the Ohio side, they're 9-3 and 7-1 in the MAC this season, and Tim Albin at head coach, he's only in his second season, and he's really turned Ohio around. From last year, they were 3-9, and now they're 9-3. They've done a great job this year, and they've had a really great season. And in week 1, they beat Florida Atlantic 41-38, and that was a good win. And then they lost at Penn State 46-10, so kind of like when Toledo lost at Ohio State, it wasn't really a contest. Then they lost at Iowa State 43-10, also not a contest. And that's not a really good result because Iowa State's having a struggling season this year. But then they beat Fordham 59-52, and that was a good win even though there was no defense in that game. But then Ohio lost at Kent State 31-24 in overtime. That was a tough loss, but they've won every game since. They've beaten Akron 55-34. They beat Western Michigan on the road 33-14. They beat Northern Illinois 24-17. They beat Buffalo 45-24. Then they won at Miami, Ohio 37-21. They won at Ball State 32-18, and then they beat Bowling Green 38-14. So pretty good results for Ohio once they enter MAC play. They did struggle out of conference even though there were tough teams that they had to play, but Ohio has had a really great season. And in that Bowling Green game, quarterback C.J. Harrison 196 yards and a touchdown and 65 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. He's a really solid dual threat quarterback. He can run, he can throw. Very solid for Ohio. Running back Sia Bangura, 96 yards and a touchdown. And wide receiver Jacoby Jones at 96 yards for Ohio. And Ohio's offense is pretty good. They've been really solid all season at putting up a lot of points. And on the defensive side of the ball, cornerback Torrey Cox Jr. at 3 tackles. Safety Alvin Floyd at 3 tackles. And linebacker Kie Thompson at 2 tackles for Ohio against Bowling Green. And Ohio's offense is probably better than their defense. Their defense has at times given up a lot of points. They've really struggled on defense, but as the season's gone along, especially since they enter MAC play, they have done a little bit better of a job on defense, but I would say their offense is still better than their defense. So who do I think is going to win this game? Obviously, it's pretty tough when you're in these smaller conferences to really tell who's the better team, even basing it off of record, because you look at Ohio. Ohio's had a great season. Their 2 losses are out of conference, and they only have 1 MAC loss, so they've been really solid in conference play. And Toledo has a couple of out-of-conference losses as well, but they've had some struggling results in the MAC. But Toledo's also a really capable football team. Jason Candle has a pretty decent team. Their defense is really solid, which I think is going to help them be able to stop Ohio's offense. And Toledo's offense does struggle a little bit, but I think they're going to be able to stay in this game because Ohio's defense is not the best. But I think Ohio, with Tim Albin as head coach, they've had a better season overall. They've done a much better job in the MAC. They've played the same teams that Toledo has played, and they've looked better against them. And even though Ohio's defense is a little sketchy at times, their offense is really solid. And I think Ohio's going to beat Toledo 28-24. I think this game could go either way. The MAC always has great championship games, and I think Toledo can definitely win this game. They have a really solid defense. Their offense is not bad, but I think Ohio just has a better team overall. Their offense is really good, and their defense has been coming around lately, and I think Ohio is going to beat Toledo 28-24 in the MAC championship game. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below whether you think Ohio or Toledo is going to win this game and why. And I will see you next time.